Wilkow starts now. New Jersey has become the latest ground zero for gun control, although the state's been ranked, what, third in the nation for having the most restrictive firearm laws? I mean, I know, because I live there. Lawmakers are now considering passing even more gun control legislation that would lead to the C word, confiscation. The bill on the table would reduce magazine capacity from 15 rounds to 10, which in turn would ban the possession of a lot of common rifles, including, get this, 22 caliber rifles. You think that's bad? Well, the measure has no grandfather clause, which means the moment the legislation becomes law, the owners of the firearms would become instant felons, potentially spending a maximum of 10 years behind bars. Man, it would be easier to be an illegal immigrant. So in order to avoid this, you'd have to hand over your firearm. The bottom line is the bill is a gun ban, and like I say, it's not going to have any impact on crime. Criminals don't follow the law. They don't care about caliber or capacity or sporting rifles. Then there's the potential for Governor Chris Christie to veto this bill if it passes, just like he did back in 2013 on a bill that tried to ban 50 caliber weapons that he initially suggested. To help break this down even further, let me welcome into the program Neil McCabe. He's the editor of the Guns and Patriots newsletter and a senior fellow for human events. All right, Neil, so they went for the biggest bullets you could buy commonly on the market, 50 caliber. Now they're going for what, the smallest?
Yeah, this is just another example of what's happening. They think they can get away with it in New Jersey because they got away with it in Connecticut and they're getting away with it in Maryland. And you know, we're coming up on the anniversary of Lexington and Concord, which of course is when the British Army went to take away the guns from the Americans. And here, 230-something years later, it's come full circle for New Jersey.
I hate this game that's played when activists or legislators say, well, what do you need 30 rounds for? I don't know. What do you need a car that goes over 65 miles an hour for? Or why do you need 10 pairs of shoes? We don't go around asking people these questions. Why do you have to vote in elections? Because it's my right?
Well, it's just not a right. These are rights protected by the Constitution. Imagine if I told you you have the right to free speech, but you can't use a press, you can't use a radio transmitter, you can't do anything that would actually help you exercise that right. It's absolutely absurd. You know, in this magazine thing, I don't know. I know why they're focusing on it because people don't think it's important. But remember, New York banned high-capacity magazines. They limited magazines to 7 rounds, even though no company in the world even makes a 7-round magazine. They didn't even know that. If I'm being chased or I'm being attacked by 10 thugs, I might need a high-capacity magazine, and I'm not going to ask those people to wait in line while I reload.
You know, I've been to the NRA National Police Shooting Championship, and the speech I gave was about the Second Amendment. You guys are law enforcement, and this is the law. The thing that drives me nuts about blue states running to a cherry-picked chief of police is that I want to hear a law enforcement officer say, you know what, I don't want to turn citizens into criminals overnight. You know, I want to hear them say, look, we've got crime on the streets, and yeah, we should get illegal guns, you know, out of the hands of criminals, but please don't pass a law that turns our neighbors into felons.
It's very difficult in the Northeast, you know, when you have a lot of political police chiefs, the same way other parts of the country have political judges and political sheriffs. These police chiefs who are tied, frankly, to the Democratic Party, if they want to move forward in their careers, they have to toe the line. There's a lot of police chiefs who would tell you something differently privately, but publicly, they're on board and on duty. But, you know, the last time we talked, Andrew, the police chief in Detroit said that he learned when he was a police officer in Maine that citizens carrying guns actually made communities safer.
You also had the Milwaukee County Sheriff saying he had a PSA out about it. We've had him on this program. He said, get on board with me, learn the responsible use of a firearm. Again, I hate this And we do this with the immigration debate. We sort of blur the line between legal immigration and illegal immigration. The NRA, Gun Owners of America, you and me, none of us support criminals having guns. Illegal is illegal. None of us support the idea that the guy who knocked over a liquor store last week should have a gun.
Yeah, I want to be perfectly clear. I do not support gun violence. I am not calling for gun violence. I do not want more murder. If any of their solutions actually created a happier, more pleasant place to live, I'd be all for it. I'm for happiness and safety. It's just that their solutions they're nutty and they don't work. And over again, they've been proved not to work. I want a safe community. That's why I want citizens to have their gun rights.
You know, it's also said, you look at a country like Mexico, which is plagued with gun violence. It has the strictest gun control laws in our hemisphere, and they'll give us these, you know, statistics from England or Switzerland or something where they have very lax gun laws in Switzerland, by the way. But Mexico, if a national gun ban worked, then Mexico shouldn't have any cartels, right?
Well, yeah, but of course the biggest, most famous gun dealer to the gangs in Mexico was our president, Barack Obama. So there you go. In fact, you talk about Canada. The government of Canada is not going to sign the UN Small Arms Trade Treaty because what few gun rights they have left in Canada, the government there doesn't want to challenge them. And so Obama signed it, but Canada won't.
All right, let's talk about the states and their economies. There's not to my knowledge, a big firearms industry in New Jersey, but Connecticut, I mean, that's the home of Colt, Mossberg, Bushmaster. There's a whole bunch of gun manufacturers. We saw what happened in Colorado. Magpul said, see ya. What happens to the state's economy if all these gun makers say, all right, fine, we'll go to Texas?
Right, and you have to sort of, I want to make the point, too, that it's not just Connecticut, but it's the Connecticut River Valley that goes in western Connecticut that goes straight up into western Massachusetts. So you have Springfield, Springfield Rifle, the Springfield Armory. That whole area is this heartland of the firearms industry. The firearms industry in Connecticut is the largest private employer in that state. So you have this state that is literally at war with itself. And
yeah, but you know what? You know what, though? It's like Sikorsky.
What's that?
Colt gets the big government contracts. So Colt doesn't have to rely on the civilian market as much as maybe, and so Mossberg gets big contracts too, although I've interviewed some of their people. They might move out. I don't think they care if Bushmaster leaves. As long as they keep Colt and Mossberg and a few other through government contracts like Beretta in Maryland, you know, maybe it won't affect them that much.
Actually, you're spot on, Andrew. There's, you know, what the other point about Connecticut is that so many of the people there are dependent on the government, either welfare cases or state employees or contracts. And so you basically have that tipping point that has crossed in Connecticut where democracy really doesn't function. There's no two-party democracy in Connecticut. There's one party. It's the Democratic Party that controls the government there, and that's how the money flows. And so there are no real elections. There are no politicians who will stand up and support gun rights because the whole system has been sort of made crooked by the amount of government largesse that's controlled by the Democratic Party.
What's on their license plate in Connecticut?
I think they're the Constitution.
Oh! Have a good weekend, Neil. All right,
man.
Coming up next.